Like, take everything personal. You miss a ground ball, take it personal. You walk somebody, you take it personal. And so I think that really created a sense of accountability in everyone and taking accountability for your mistakes. Because say you grow up not taking a certain amount of accountability as a player, you tend to blame others for how you perform, and you don't recognize within yourself, like, oh, I need to actually get better at this sort of skill to be better as a player, and not, well, it's the coach's fault, it's my teammates' fault, it's my parents' fault. No, you take it personal and you say to yourself, like, why did I miss that ground ball? Why did I strike out? And ultimately, it's you as a player who did not do well or did not perform up to your standards. So why blame someone else?
Welcome, everybody, to Catching You. I'm your co-host, Rusty Ham. And in today's episode, Lacey and I, we're in the second year 10s now, travel ball, with a very accomplished organization. And the stakes are high. We had a pretty good team, and the expectations were to go win a national championship. So we dive into Lacey's experience and her thoughts about the intensity of practices and the games and playing against rival girls. I get into, what do I get into? For you fathers out there that maybe have a W-2 or you're busy and you can't make your kids' games, that's how I felt. I was a head basketball coach, and I was not attending a lot of their stuff. My son's too. He was in flag football, and I didn't want that anymore, right? So I stopped being a head coach of basketball so I can attend her games and be around her as much as I can. I know some fathers out there that maybe you can't do that and you can't get away. And I feel for you because it's pretty difficult, right? It's pretty difficult to make that decision between, well, I got to put food on the table versus attending a practice or attending a tournament over the weekend. So we get into that. This episode's a little bit longer than the first three, just for that simple fact that I can go into my story a little bit, and Lacey does in her perspective of me not being there and how important it was when I did start showing up and how she felt. So enjoy this episode, and we'll catch you on the other side. Hello, and welcome to Catching You, a dad and daughter's softball journey. I'm Rusty, a dad who's been in the dugout and on the sidelines.
And I'm Lacey, the daughter whose journey through softball has been filled with incredible wins, tough losses, and so many lessons both on and off the field.
For the past 16 years, we've navigated the highs and lows of softball together, from the local fields to national tournaments and everything in between.
From the challenges of recruitment during COVID to the mental and emotional roller coaster that comes with being a student athlete, we'll be sharing the perspectives of both a parent and athlete and firsthand experience of the impact of sports on mental health and the importance of support from the sidelines.
We're diving into the very beginning of our journey by sharing Lacey's childhood stories and what the start of our learning process as a father-daughter team looked like.
Whether you're a young athlete dreaming of playing softball, a parent trying to support your child in sports, or just someone who loves a sports story, we believe you'll find something relatable and inspiring in our podcast.
So, how do you know if you've given enough to your sport or to your child's passion? Stick around as we explore these questions and more. You might just find out the answers in our journey. Welcome, everybody, back to Catching You, a dad and daughter's dive into softball. This is episode 4. Lacey, how's it going?
It's going good. I'm in the midst of finals week.
Oh, no.
So
you know who doesn't have to do finals? Me.
You have said.
I've said that. All right. So what finals do you have this week?
Yesterday, I had cognition final.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have one today. And then tomorrow, I have my biology final.
Awesome. Well, good luck, sweetie.
Thank you.
Anyway, So this episode, we're transitioning now from first year tens, which you know, it was Team Mizuno, right? And you were 9 and 10 years old at the time, and you pitched. You were pitching, and our team did fairly well as a first year 10. Now we're transitioning into second year tens, which now the stakes are a little bit higher because we are now Batbusters, right, Lace?
The Orange County Batbusters, yes, a well-known organization, and you either like us or you really hate us.
That's true, and we're gonna get into that in a little bit. There were some fans of ours, but there were a lot of people that did not, where they were not fans of the Batbuster organization and or our team,
Right,
right?
right, and we were only 10 years old.
You're only 10,
We were only 10 and we had haters already.
yeah, which is fine. You're gonna have haters.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny.
well, let's talk about that because Coach Chris at the time, um, he's pretty intense, right? The way he coached, the way he approached the game. Not a lot of people liked him or our team. Like, can you describe that a little bit?
Well, now that we go into second year 10s and have this new label or this new team, um, we're I think people looked at us in like a certain way because we were part of that organization. But then Coach Chris is now our main goal is to win a national championship. And so the year before that on Team Mizuno, it wasn't an established goal of ours, I think. I think we're just getting into the habit of what travel ball looks like, and we're going different places. We're going to Oregon, we're going to all these different places in California. But now, under this organization, we're going to Florida, Tennessee, Colorado, many other places, and Coach Chris is implementing some coaching style that, um, is just another form of discipline, you might say.
Right?
Um, and it's a hard way to go.
Yeah.
A hard way to go.
Yeah. So, typically in the softball world, if you're not familiar with the softball world, typically if you're first year, whatever level, 10U, 12U, 14U, 18s typically, if you're a first year, meaning there's two different years, right? You have first year 10, second year 10, second year 10s. You can turn 11, um, but you're still considered 10U, right? So second year 10s, the girls are older, they're probably faster and stronger, and you're typically a better team at that point. First year 10s, you're just kind of getting into that new age group, and you're just, you're taking your lumps as first year 10. The second year 10s, we have this team that's now established by Chris. We have some great players on that team, and on that team, if you look at that picture, the second year 10s picture, multiple, I think we talked about it off camera, but multiple girls on that team end up going to Division 1, right?
Mhm.
We had a pretty good team. That's when, rankings start coming out. But I think rankings were 12U. I don't think we had rankings at 10U, but
No, and if we did, I don't think it no, it did matter to us, never mind. We
no. So,
well,
but,
no,
but
it did later on. I
correct. Yeah.
remember, it did,
And,
yeah.
and yeah, in 12U, it really mattered. But, this team, I don't think it mattered. But what did matter was Chris. His goal was to win the national championship, right?
Mhm.
That was his ultimate goal. We had two pretty good pitchers, as you and I think it was Amanda at the time. Um, and we were rolling along. We were, beating a lot of good teams. We started developing some rivalries.
Yes. Yeah. And it was kinda just out of nowhere, I think.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, I don't think people liked Chris very much or how he coached, and they took it they took offense to it, and they were like, "Oh, we hate this team, and we have to beat them." And at 10, I feel like my team didn't really understand that as much, like, we couldn't feel that energy from the team, we could always feel it from the coaches. Like, we're like, "Oh my gosh, this coach is, like, yelling at the girls, like, as they walk into the dugout, like, after they strike out, what is going on?" Or like
Yeah, I think you're right. The rivalry was mainly the coaches, not necessarily the girls.
no, because I
Girl
we had no connection to the other teams. Maybe
Yeah,
some girls played rec ball together, but that's pretty much it.
yeah,
There was no, like at 10 years old, you're not having girl drama. Maybe a little bit, but
yeah,
not crazy. For people that don't know what a friendly is, it's just a scrimmage. It
right.
does not count at all.
It means nothing,
It means absolutely nothing to anyone.
right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so this one game was against we'd call it our rivals. It was against, and so their coach was stealing signs from Chris, right?
Yeah.
And so she was calling pitches, like Chris would call a changeup and she would yell out, "Watch for the changeup," And, and so Chris got so mad and he took it personal. And that's when I think you said, like, that's when we started taking things personal. Like, okay, people are
Mhm.
like they want to beat us so bad that they're willing to like steal signs, right?
Yeah. So, second year 10s, like, I don't know if it was that specific game it started, but, like, the start of the season, he would always use the quote, like, "Take it personal."
Hmm.
Like, take everything personal. You miss a ground ball, take it personal. You walk somebody, you take it personal. And so I think that really created a sense of accountability in everyone and taking accountability for your mistakes. 'Cause say you grow up not taking a certain amount of accountability as a player, you tend to blame others for how you perform, and you don't recognize within yourself, like, "Oh, I need to actually get better at this sort of skill to be better as a player," and not, "Well, it's the coach's fault, it's my teammates' fault, it's my parents' fault." No, you take it personal and you say to yourself, like, "Why did I miss that ground ball? Why did I strike out?" And ultimately, it's you as a player who did not do well or did not perform up to your standards. So why blame someone else? You know? I think that's what he meant by it.
Yeah, and
Same
yeah,
with
I mean,
rivalries.
yeah, and he was real fundamentals, right? He was all about fundamentals, right?
The little things, yeah.
The little things. He was all about the little things. And if you didn't take that personal, if you didn't take the little things personal, then you were not going to get better. And then the team wasn't going to get better, right? So
Right.
great point. But that one friendly is just, things escalated. I think we won on a walk-off single or something like that. I was in the bathroom at the time when I came back and the parents were fighting, they're yelling and screaming. And I'm sure that those of you that are in the softball world, I'm sure this is not the only story you've heard of parents yelling and screaming. Again, they're 10. You guys were 10 years old and we're screaming and yelling about a game that means nothing.
And imagine the girls, like, they're doing their little high five train at the end of the game, and all we see is our parents just yelling at each other. Like, what's going on? It's just a game.
Right.
But then again, I don't know. It's a whole I don't for for a parent, like, you talked about it last episode about how you saw, or as I was getting better pitching, you were like, "Well, just hit the glove. Like, we've been doing lessons, we do it every day. Like, why aren't you hitting my glove?" And you would get frustrated. But, like, this is another type of frustration with a set of parents that we're not really connected to. So if you could explain, like, parent drama a little bit or how to avoid it, I don't
Mind your own business.
mind your
Like
own business.
cheer on your own team and not like direct your any comments or your anger towards other parents or other coaches. Like just cheer your own team on. It's hard to explain parents, and that's why we're doing this. Part of the reason why we're doing this, right,
Mhm.
is my struggles as a parent of a of a player, of a daughter that's going through, youth sports and travel ball. But parents just need to kind of chill. Right? They just need to just sit there and enjoy the game. Um, but it's hard, right? Because there's pressure. There's pressure for you to perform, and if your daughter's not playing, then there's frustration with the parents because why isn't my daughter playing? And what's wrong? Why, and then they start, like you said, they start blaming the coach. Well, it's the coach's fault because the coach doesn't like her or whatever, or the coach doesn't like the parent, so he doesn't play the girl. There's a lot of different dynamics, but and there's pressure for and then if you are playing, then there's a pressure to performing. If your girl's i- is hitting and she keeps striking out, right? Then there's pressure on the parents to, okay, do we need to do more lessons? There's pressure of her getting sat, and then if she gets sat, then how's that conversation going to happen at home, right? So, and then if you're giving up home runs, if you're, there's plenty of times where you would you were walking girls, and I was in the stands. My heart was beating really fast. I was frustrated for you, right? I knew that you weren't doing it on purpose, and you always said that to me. I'm not doing it on purpose.
I made sure that was a point I made because I think as a player, I felt like you thought I was on purpose walking these girls or on purpose putting it down the middle so these girls hit a home run off me. And I think that's a really good point for the parents to recognize, like, your kid is not failing on purpose. Like, they're not doing it to spite you. I don't know if some young players do that. I have no idea what's going on, but I think I even starting at a young age, I didn't like letting people down. So, like, especially my parents, you, my coaches, my teammates, literally everyone around me in my environment, I did not want to let them down. And if I did not perform up to my standards or their standards, I felt like I was letting everyone down. Because, I mean, you're driving me 2.5 hours to go to lessons. I mean, spending all this money for me to go travel and the hotel and dues for travel ball. And it's like, I internally know that, so I'm not failing on purpose. I
Right.
I'm having a day where I don't understand my mechanics, and I'm not making adjustments properly.
And it also didn't help that we were vying for a national championship because that's
Right.
all we talked about, right? So you got this cloud hovering over your head that we are practicing and we're playing to win a national championship, A. And then B, you have all these other pressures, which is if I have these pressures of winning a national championship and I don't perform well, then I'm letting people down, right?
Mhm.
So
Well,
that's
and
gonna
you mentioned, like, all these pressures. So pressure is not just, it's the 7th inning, 2 outs, and the winning runs up to bat. Like, that's pressure, but there's a whole 'nother side of it, even as you were saying, like, as a parent, when I'm walking people,
Mhm.
like, I feel pressure because I need to perform and you feel that pressure for me.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that when you do walk 1 or 2 or 3 in a row or you give up that hit after a walk, doesn't help that your dad is pacing back and forth in in the stands or
No,
even,
yeah.
you know,
He would stand in the behind the backstop
huh?
with a I mean, the fences are see-through, obviously, you can see everyone behind the fence, and after after a walk, he'd be looking at me, crossed his arms, and he's just shaking his head like this. back and forth, just shaking his head. I was like, "Oh gosh, I'm in so much trouble." And it was after
Well,
1 walk. It would be after 1 walk.
well, it was probably a leadoff walk. That's probably why I was so upset.
That's what I was known for, right? Lead-off walks.
Yeah, after a while, I'm like, I think she loads the bases on purpose to create pressure for herself just to get out of the
I don't know, it's just what was I don't know.
Yeah, um, so let's transition to the one tournament after. So this was kind of a pivotal point in second year tens, right? We're in I forget what tournament it was.
It
Uh,
wasn't a big it was just a tournament that we
I
were
think it
playing.
was could have been some sort of Christmas tournament. For some reason I thought it was like in January or February or something like that, but maybe an MLK. Oh, it was an MLK tournament.
Mhm.
Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. But Um, you're the starting third baseman who, we're not gonna name names, but, she becomes pivotal later on in your career. Um, the first baseman's throwing to the third baseman, during warm-ups. You're doing your warm-ups, and so they're out there, and she overthrows the first baseman. This is just between innings, right? Um,
Yeah,
and
I don't remember the exact situation.
Yeah, I do, 'cause that's very vivid in my mind.
Okay,
So
there you go.
so
Yeah.
she overthrows first, and before the batter comes up, Chris exchanges her for another third baseman, yanks her from the team just because she overthrew first base during warm-ups between innings, right?
That's how strict it was.
Yeah, so it was I mean, he yanked her. This is, again, 10 years old,
Yep.
but he yanked her, right? So she is a very good player, but at the time, it's just she overthrew first and Chris yanked it, right? So after the game, they leave. They leave the
Yeah.
team. Sunday comes around, we actually win the tournament, right? But after that tournament, another 5 girls take off.
Mhm.
They leave. So that was like a total of 6 girls from our team that left the team and went to other teams. For whatever reason, we have no idea. Could have been how Chris treated the girls. It could have been this pressure was too high. We have no idea. But I don't know if you remember that a little bit, like what your thoughts were of all these girls leaving?
I think I was just, like, a little confused, I'd say, like, cause I mean, there wasn't like a, "Oh, like, this is the last time I'm seeing you, Lacey, like, goodbye." Like, it was just like, I eventually see some of those girls again in my career, but, like, those were my friends but now as a competitive 10U team, it's like, yes, they're my friends, but now we have a job to do. We just have a job to do, and, like, we can't really think about it too much or our course will be misled. So, I mean, it really at the end of the day, it didn't really, like, matter to me or my teammates, like, why they left. It really just did, like it can come down to a lot of reasons on why people do end up transferring over to another travel ball team, but we still had one goal in mind, and nothing was gonna change that.
Right. Well, the difficult part was we had one goal in mind. However, half the team was gone. So, like, what do
Right.
we do now? Right. We're like, what do we
Exactly.
do now? So, luckily, um, there's this girls that came on that fit right in. Like, the parents fit in, they fit in, they understood the assignment. um, and never looked back. Now, the crazy thing is the girls that left ended up going to teams we end up having rivalries with,
Yeah.
right? And we had some pretty intense battles against these girls that used to play with us, which,
Mhm.
again, 10 years old.
Yeah.
It's just crazy how things were so intense. And I'm sure they're still intense at 10 years old to this day, right? But
Right, and
it's just crazy how it's just crazy,
'cause
right?
I know Chris would have conversations with us. He's like, "It doesn't matter. Like, we're just gonna keep practicing. Like, we're gonna keep going." But
Mhm.
did he ever, like, have conversations with you guys as parents? Like you
Not parents. Remember, he did not talk to parents, right? It was pretty closed off. I mean, he would joke around with them outside the fence, but I don't think he ever, you know, if something was going on with the team, he would never like have a parent meeting and say, "Hey, this is what's going on, guys."
so
Um,
so how did you and mom know, like, we're gonna stick to it type thing?
oh, because we loved Chris. We knew he was special, right? Because, like you said in the early episodes, that yes, he was strict. That's what we loved about it, right? He held everybody accountable, but he also had a loving side to him, and we saw that. Right? We saw how he would be super strict. He'd make you run if you made a mistake. He would scream and yell at you if you made a mistake or struck out or didn't hit the ball to the right side of the field to advance the runner.
Mhm.
However, when at the end of the day, he would joke around with you. He'd make fun of your height. He thought he was taller than you, and he was always shorter than you, right? So, just we
I was a
understood.
tall 10-year-old. I was
Yeah,
very
we
tall.
understood him. It also helped. Yeah, just so we just understood the dynamics of who Chris was because in the end of the day, he's an awesome dude, um,
So
and
for
some people didn't see that, right? Some of the parents
right.
didn't see that.
So for parents listening, what would you recommend, for for the girls that are going into competitive travel? What would you recommend? Would you recommend, like, searching for that nice fit team, or maybe sticking to a particular team, or, like, just finding that fit, basically?
Yeah, it's about values, right? So I stopped teaching and I stopped coaching and I entered into the um, self-employment business world, right?
Mhm.
And what we do is we hire and fire based on our values. Like we have a value system. So that's what I would recommend parents to do with teams. I would try to join a team that had the values that you hold sacred, right? And if that coach or if that organization has those types of values, then go for it, right? I think parents they tend to team hop because of they think there's an opportunity for them for scholarships, right? And we can talk all day about the opportunities of getting scholarships and the percentage of girls getting scholarships. It's super low, less than 2%, right? So if you're looking for the opportunity for your daughter to or son to play in travel ball, I would find a team that has the values that you hold sacred.
And then you said that you stopped teaching, which was kinda
Huh.
later on.
Yeah.
But, with coaching, because you were a basketball coach for 30 years,
Mhm.
and this was kinda during my 2nd year tens, you mentioned that you were possibly thinking about retiring as a coach, and I wanted to see, like, what the reasons were behind that, or, like, what your mind process was with that.
Yeah, so it was first year tens. It was the summer of first year tens. I was the head basketball coach. I started this high school that you ended up going to in '09, and in '09 you were six, right?
Yeah.
And so for my first 20 years of coaching, I was always like a lower level head coach or I was an assistant varsity, right? I was never a head basketball coach of a program. And that was my ultimate goal is I wanted to be a head basketball coach of a high school and teach and do that for the rest of my life. That was my ultimate goal. What I didn't think about was you and Jesse, because Jesse was 3, you were 6. I didn't think about when you guys got older and you guys getting into youth sports and the time commitment that you guys would, and then my time commitment as a head basketball coach. I didn't think about that. My ultimate goal is I want to be a head basketball coach. And so when I got it, I was like, sweet. But then 4 years later, you're now 10 and you're in travel softball. And there was a summer, we went to a summer basketball camp up in Westmont College. If you don't know where that's at, uh, it's in a very nice area of California. We stayed in the dorms. It was a 3-day tournament, so we were there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I was in the dorm room all by myself because my assistant coaches went to the downtown Santa Barbara, and they were having their fun while I had to stay back with the players. Well, I was all by myself. You had a tournament I was missing. Jesse had a flag football game that I was missing. I was miserable because our team was playing like crap. And I'm like, I went up here, and they just didn't care. I had like 3 or 4 football players that didn't come because they had football commitments. So, and they were like one of our better teammates.
Yeah.
So when they were gone, we sucked. And then the team that I had, it didn't look like they cared. And it was that moment I just said, I can't do this. I can't be a head coach and miss what you guys were doing. Right. So I'm not sure if other parents have those type of issues. I did step down, that after that season. I mean, I went through the season. I still coached for the whole year, but um, I did end up being an assistant coach with Chris on that second year tens for that reason. Because I'm like, I'm not missing. There's no way I'm missing anything of yours. I'm going to be there. And Jesse's right. He had that flag football. There's no way I was going to miss any of your events anymore because of being a head basketball coach. At that point, it didn't matter anymore. Like, it wasn't that important.
Right, and I think for a lot of young players, especially, like, of those young years, all we really wanna see is, like, our parents show up. Like, just even you just being there is just it makes things so much, so much more plausible and, like, the motivation is, like, there.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, this is unrelatable, but I see, like, TikToks of, say, like, little kids at their preschool performances, and the parents, like, filming them, and they're like, "Watch the moment you see that the kid, like, sees their parent." And you could automatically see that the kid finds the, like, parent, either, um, mom or dad or whatever, and their face just lights up, and you could just tell that they're like, that's all they wanted was to see their parent in that moment. Like, have a high regard in your kid's mind when it comes to, like, competitive sports or anything like, what your kid is passionate about. Like, you just the kids just want the parents to believe in the kid, basically,
Mhm.
and sometimes that's all it takes. Like, I could I could have people tell me, like, "You're not good enough. You're not gonna make it D1. You're not gonna make it here," or, like, "You don't have the skill," but I knew my parents, my dad and my mom knew I knew that they believed in me, and that's pretty much and that would be all it took for me to keep going. People need to realize the importance of that.
And again, there's parents that, they're working, they're W-2s, and there's time where they can't make games or they can't make events and stuff like that. And it's not their fault. It's just sometimes they can't, right? So I did have that choice where I can say, you know what, this is what I'm doing right now is not as important as attending your events or attending your practices and attending your games and you know watching you perform, because that was super important to me, is watching you perform and you kicking butt. Talking about kicking butt, let's talk about the national championship, because we end up playing for the national championship
We
as we
do.
yeah, which was pretty cool, right? We go to Tennessee, um, and we play some really intense games before that, right? I don't know if you remember Impact Gold.
Yeah.
That was one of the, I think that was one of the, if you talk to the parents, if you talk to our parents, that was probably the turning point of our team as far as energy. Because I think we were kind of like skating through the tournament. We were doing pretty good in the tournament. In fact, there was one game, I don't know if you remember, we went to ITB and it was like 12-11. We were like giving up so many runs and we ended up winning, which I think they got us to the Impact Gold game. But that Impact Gold game,
That's
their
when we
parents,
really took it personal.
we took it
Talk
personal
about
because,
taking it personal.
yeah,
That was that was when I actually had feelings toward the other team and was like,
right,
I don't care, we're gonna win,"
right.
type thing.
Well, because we heard them, right? We heard them on another field, and it's not necessarily we heard the players as it was the parents were, and, God bless them, they were just they were all in, right?
Yeah.
And so every pitch, every play, they were screaming and yelling and cheering, and so I don't know if you remember Lenny, Tatiana's dad. He comes in at the hotel and he's like, "We have to match that energy. We're gonna cheer. And we're gonna cheer every time they cheer. We're gonna cheer louder." And so he got all the parents all hyped up. And then that game came in very first. I don't know if it was the first pitch or what, but Tatiana hit this rocket in the left center and got a double. And
Mhm.
we went nuts. We were absolutely going nuts. And then and then that's when we're cheering for you. And
Yeah.
I think our energy, they like went flat because we matched their energy.
They never saw another team that had parents that were like them, but even more like them.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, my teammates, I mean, we're we're, like you said, all in,
Yeah.
and all year we were waiting for this moment to, like, go to the national championship, and this was our moment to push through and beat, like, this big name team. They're a very, very good team, and, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think that's the video that's on YouTube of me throwing a changeup, and then she swings and misses, and then, Kalen just throws the ball up in the air
That
and,
was funny.
gives them
Uh,
a dirty
that
look.
was actually a different Texas team. That is
Oh,
saying that the Impact Goal is a different team, but I think there might have been two Impact Goal teams, but
yeah,
that one that you threw the chains up and yeah, that was a good one. That was the semifinals actually.
right.
Um, but then we end up going to the finals and we played, Mojo, who is also a very good team.
Very good
Um,
team, yeah.
yeah, and I remember, Savannah and Aubrey, those girls on those team. I think I forgot that the girl's left-hander. She's the one that hit the game winner, but we had to beat them twice, and I think we had losing 1-0. It was a
Yeah,
great game. You and Savannah were, throwing because she threw a changeup too, just like you,
yeah.
and so it was like change up. But it was just a great experience just to be able to play for the national championship.
I mean, yeah, I mean, the idea of having to beat a team twice for those who have been in that situation before, and I think it's crazy because I've been in that situation way too many times, I think. I was just in that situation this past year
Yeah,
in the Mountain West Championship versus SDSU, and we had to beat them twice.
yeah,
And, you come together as a team and you're like, it is what it is, but you have to get through it.
yeah,
And you have that belief, but it's a very, very hard task, and I think very few teams are able to accomplish it. Um, but I mean, I think my team kept the belief, right? And that's all you really need. But at the end of the day, it didn't really work out the way we wanted it to. But I just remember having a lot of fun in that tournament, and I mean, going through those games, like, with the Impact Gold team and building those relationships with my teammates.
yeah. I mean, and the 12 second year 12. We'll get into that in later episode. But second year 12s, you had to win 2 games to get into the championship. I don't know if
That's
you remember
another
that.
situation. See, it
Yeah,
happens the next year too.
but it was great because I did Game Changer for second year.
Yes.
That was the game changer. king on our team. And just to see your stats when I look up your stats during that week of
Uh-huh.
that tournament, your stats were just off the charts, incredible. It was so awesome to watch you play and succeed and thrive in that situation. You were just on fire. You were pitching well. Loved you leave seeing that. We need to get going here, Lace.
Well, I wanted
But
I wanted to touch
go
on the
ahead.
stats part
Yeah, go ahead.
because I think a lot of girls tend to hyperfixate on stats. That's a very, very minuscule part of what it takes to be a good player.
Yeah,
Do you go back and look at stats from the season and say, "Okay, this is where I need to improve"? Yes. But every single game and being like, "Oh my gosh," like batting average, walks, strikeouts. So, I mean, it's great to have because I made goals at the beginning of each season, and I think my goal was 150 strikeouts for the season last season.
mhm,
I think I got to about 100, but say I fixated on it all season, and I go into a game, all right, like, I need to get 5 strikeouts this game and blah, blah, blah. Like, it distracts you from the main goal, I feel like.
yeah,
Just go into the game and it's a day by day thing, like, game by game.
right.
And
Yeah,
then say you don't get those 5 strikeouts that game, now you're what, disappointed with yourself and you're all
right.
these types of feelings, mixed
Yeah,
emotions.
don't beat yourself up, right? You wanna
No,
look you wanna focus on, the positives, you wanna focus on things that went well, right? Obviously, you wanna work on things that didn't go well, but you at the end of the day, you wanna focus on things, that are going well, and are you improving or are you not? If you're not improving, then wait, what do you need to do in order to make those improvements, right? So, awesome stuff, Lace. Um, any parting words before we get out of here?
uh, I come home on Saturday.
Yee-hoo. Yeah, so we get to do our episodes at home. That's awesome.
Yep, for a whole month.
Awesome. Well, good luck on your finals,
Thank you.
and I love you so much.
I love you more.
Oh, okay. Bye,
Okay,
sweetie.
bye.